Welcome to Neptune. Today I'm going to show my Joy Division and New Order collection. And I'm going to start with this, which is a reissue of Joy Division's first album, Unknown Pleasures, originally released in 1979 with a black cover. So this is a reverse image. This reissue came out a couple years ago. Here's the original on an old CD. This is a waveform of a pulsar, so says Wikipedia. I think I knew that before, though. And it's a radar pattern from that collapsing star. And here's the track listing. Joy Division released 2 albums while they were still functioning as a group, and then Ian Curtis, the lead singer, committed suicide just before the group was about to embark on a North American tour. And then the remaining 3 members reformed as New Order with the addition of the drummer's wife, Gillian. The drummer, Stephen Morris, incidentally, one of the most amazing drummers I've ever seen. I've seen New Order twice in concert, once with Echo and the Bunnymen, which was one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen, and then a year or 2 later with Public Image Limited. And so Stephen Morris, the drummer, one of the fastest, most amazingly skilled drummers that I've ever seen live. A lot of times on a New Order song, what you think is a drum machine is in fact Morris going at top speed. And his wife Gillian plays bass guitar and keyboards. And then there's the bass player Peter Hook and the guitar player and primary singer Bernard Sumner. I'm lingering on this because it's such a beautiful artifact. I just am stunned by the ruby red vinyl that you see here. So it's something that I love. And then their second album was Closer. I used to have this on vinyl. It was one of the ones I sold way back in the day. I wish I still had it. It was a beautifully designed album too. Their second and last album. Most of Joy Division and New Order's albums were designed by the same guy here, Peter Saville, and his co-workers, his associates. And their record label was Factory, which is one of the most best known and most respected independent record labels in England, out of Manchester, where these groups were from. And Peter Saville was primarily responsible for the look of Joy Division and New Order right from their start, well into the 90s and even past that. I have this book that I love of his designs, and on the cover you see this is sort of a 3-dimensionalized version of the Unknown Pleasures album cover. And this lavishly illustrated book goes through. There's a lot of historical information there, and then, of course, images of his artwork all through the years. OMD was another band on Factory. The Hacienda was a nightclub in Manchester that New Order co-owned and operated, and was part of the scene there for quite some time. See some Joy Division reissues there, more New Order albums. So Peter Saville, an artist that I really admire. And then I also have this book, which is the complete graphic album of Factory Records. It has much of the same things that are in the other book, but Saville did other work, not only for the record labels, but other things too. So that's what his book was about. This is all Factory Records work. They considered the hacienda as part of the group identity of New Order. It was even issued a factory ID number, just a catalog number, just like the albums and CDs have. The nightclub is long closed, I believe, now. Okay, so a couple of great art books. And then here, this is a book that I got in the mid-'80s from Home of the Hits on Elmwood Avenue in Buffalo, New York. And this was back in the days when you couldn't go online to find out about the bands you were interested in. You had to rely on knowledgeable friends, or maybe hope you were listening to the radio at the right time when the DJ said something useful. But there was a lot of books like this. I have several of these types of books in my collection. And it's not an official record, not authorized by the band or the label or anything. Largely a fan or critic type work, but it was really invaluable to me in the early days of finding out the story of Joy Division and New Order. A lot of great old pictures here. And this book only goes up to about 1982, so it cuts short there, but still, I still have it, and I still look through it from time to time. And the print collection, my print collection, continues with memoirs from two of the members of the band. Peter Hook, the bass player. Hook, known for the sound of New Order and Joy Division, played his bass like a lead guitar. That's one of the most recognizable sounds of New Order. That and the mixture of guitars and synthesizers. They were right on the cutting edge of new wave modern rock at the turn of the 70s into the 80s. Right, so this is Peter Hook's story of the Joy Division years. I really like rock memoirs, no matter how biased they might be, or in this case, there was a very ugly battle, ended up in the courts between Peter Hook and the rest of the band. This was way later, but I guess they sued each other and reached some kind of settlement. But they're no longer. Peter Hook is no longer with the other members of New Order. Seems like kind of a bitter thing, but that's not uncommon in rock history. So I just try to get every side of the story that I'm interested in hearing. So I've got Peter Hook's Joy Division story here, and then a sequel of sorts. Peter Hook's book about New Order, his New Order years. This one's a lot fatter. Right, so a lot of great first-hand history here, and pictures, and a really interesting read. And then I've got Bernard's side of the story. New Order, Joy Division, and me. All right, so my library there. And so what you're looking at now is it was a posthumous release after Curtis's death. Factory issued this. It's called Still, and it's some outtakes. Here's the track listing. Songs that weren't on the first two albums, and then these are live versions of songs. You can't really tell, I guess, from the video, but this is a very thick, heavy cardboard. This was the original color, really beautiful pale gray, and it's faded, so it's got this kind of brownish, ugly tint to it now, unfortunately. But I've kept it all these years. I bought this in the 80s, and it's a great document of Joy Division on black vinyl. course, I have the CD version as well, with the same track list. All of these albums have been reissued, remastered, with extra songs, complete live concerts in some cases, and a lot of goodies for the collector. All things available online, streaming. And then got this, 15 years ago or so, the complete BBC recordings. Another great live show. And there have been many compilations too, and this is just one of them, called Permanent. Came out in 1995. And then, as I said, New Order came out of Joy Division, and their first album, post Joy Division, was called Movement. Here's the CD. This is a really fascinating thing to listen to if you're a fan of both bands, because it's exactly in between Joy Division and New Order. You can almost hear the band becoming New Order here. You hear that on a couple of Joy Division songs towards the end of their career, but especially so on this album. So you hear remnants of the old Joy Division sound and sounds that would become the New Order signature after that. This is the deluxe edition of Movement that came out a couple of years ago. And it's actually been a while since I've opened this up, so I'm not really even sure what's in here. Leave that there for now. Okay, so this is a vinyl reissue of the original album. I don't really play these vinyl albums ever. Occasionally I will. I do have a turntable, but I'm not one of those collectors who insist that vinyl is the best sound. In fact, I think it is not quite as good, or not at all as good, as digital music that I hear on CDs or streaming. I know some hipsters would be horrified to hear that, but it's just my truth. Listening to vinyl now, it sounds much muddier and less crisp and clear than music that I listen to digitally. And here's a very nice book commemorating the album. It's a large format. Pictures of artifacts. There's Gillian. And there's the band. Early cover art. Instruments they used. This is almost like a hard rock hotel. They would have things like this in display cases. And inside here, okay, so here's the original album in CD format. And here's some extras. Alternate versions of some songs. Temptation, probably my favorite song from early New Order era. And it's a DVD. Okay. According to this, there's a complete live show from New York. Both years, 1980 and 1981. And then some early TV appearances too from England. So a really nice package there to commemorate one of my all-time favorite bands. Here are the old CDs that I have. So after Movement came Power, Corruption, and Lies. And this was in the Blue Monday era. Everyone knows that song, Blue Monday. For a long time, it was the biggest selling 12-inch single of all time. I think something else has replaced it. Here's Low Life, a masterpiece. Brotherhood, another masterpiece. I've always loved this cover. It looks like a machined piece of metal. And for the reissue of Brotherhood, it's a kind of a wavy version of this kind of interesting rethinking of the imagery there. And then, like I said, there are a lot of compilations from both groups. Here's New Order from 1987. I really liked this one a lot. It's got on disc 1 all of their singles, and then on disc 2 all of the B-sides to those singles. And I still pull this disc out and listen to it now and then because last time I checked, I wasn't able to find these songs online. And here's another later greatest hits. Some reworkings of some of their old songs, like Blue Monday 88. This one, underrated I think by a lot of New Order fans, but I like it a lot. It's Get Ready. Came out in 2001. More of a rock sound to this one than some of their others. But still very much recognizably New Order. And then here's Waiting for the Siren's Call, follow up to that from 2005. And then after that, I don't have any more physical things from New Order because, like so much of the rest of my collection, it spans several decades and technologies. So after Waiting for the Siren's Call, there was a remix album called Lost Sirens with the same songs, or some of the same songs, but reworked. And their latest release to this date is called Music Complete, which came out in 2015. So I don't have any of that to show you, but that's a great album and a great return to form, and I believe that's the first one without Peter Hook. And then finally here, this went along with that Joy Division disc that I showed earlier from BBC. So here's New Order. This was a complete concert from the mid-'80s with New Order in all their power. And then here's a DVD. Again, New Order, 2 separate live concerts, one from 81, one from 98. The 81 concert is especially interesting to collectors like me, also known as Taras Shevchenko. That's the name of the picture of the guy that hangs above the drum set as the band is playing. They're playing in some sort of, I think it's a Polish community center or something in New York City. And during one of these songs, maybe Temptation, Barney gets shocked by the mic. There's a short, he goes to grab it to sing, and you hear it go bzz, and then he kind of springs back and has this look of surprise, but to his credit, keeps on singing. And then here's from 98. This is a big, I believe this was from a big festival that they did. And they, for many years, New Order didn't play any Joy Division songs in their sets, but then gradually they started to do that. So here we've got 3 in a row. Isolation, one of their best, Atmosphere, and Heart and Soul. So this is what you had to do before YouTube. Find DVDs and Blu-rays like this. And then the last thing I'll show is a compilation of factory records, as I said. one of the most well-known and respected independent record labels. It's a 4-disc set. A lot of these names are fairly obscure. Joy Division and New Order and OMD, probably the most famous. Later on, Happy Mondays was a big success for the label. And then there's a couple of cult groups on here, like Cabaret Voltaire, De Rudy Column. This is a great. Other discs are somewhere else, but like all of these box sets, comes with a lot of information about all the songs and release dates, personnel, stories behind each one of the songs, and a postcard. Ah, yes, this is factory again, designed everything. So this is a roll of packing tape, and it actually had a factory number attached to that as well. Kind of a sly sense of humor in a lot of this. Right, okay, so that is Joy Division and New Order, two of the all-time greats. Thanks for watching. Thank you to my subscribers, and I will be back soon with some more show and tell.